Hey Flosstube, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen and this is my fiber web where I talk about cross stitch and knitting and crochet sometimes. Today's December 3rd. Welcome to December. I just released a video yesterday that was a wrap up of November, and this video is going to start with what I've been getting up to since December 1st. So it will be a mix of cross stitch and knitting. I do have a couple of Advent knitting projects that I'm working on, so I will share those. I've also been knitting on some other projects, like I have a sweater project that is a couple years old that I've been working on when I'm watching TV. So maybe I'll show you that at the end of the week. If you're new here, this is Bear. He's the best napper in all the lands. Okay, so today's the 3rd. On Sunday, the 1st, I started my 95th start of this year was Santa's House by Cottage Garden samplings. So this is from the Fabulous House series that has been being released throughout the months of this year, 2024. And I have, let's see, I already had 5 of them in my collection, and I did do a little bit of Black Friday shopping and managed to find the rest of the ones that I did not have in a couple different Etsy shops that were having sales. So as my things roll in that I purchased over Black Friday and Small Business Saturday, I will share those with you. But this one I got when it first came out. I also had found a giant piece of Fox and Rabbit prehistoric linen, which is the called for color for these. However, mine is a 36 count, and I found it at Hollis Hands Create, which is also an Etsy shop. And I was inspired by Brenda from Handwork Maniac to maybe try to do all of these on one piece. So I got a half yard of this, and this is my teeny tiny start on Santa's House. So I literally worked on this as like a token start on the 1st on Sunday. And this is just the top left border that I started working on. And I positioned this on the fabric so that if I do still want to do all of them in one, I can. However, they just came out with a bonus one. It's called the Tudor House, I think. And so there are 13. So I'm curious. I need to know, what are we doing? If we're doing all of these together in a 3x4 grid, what are we doing with the 13th? It's just a standalone? Somebody tell me. If you're doing this, what's the plan? What are we doing? Anyway, so I hope to work on this throughout the month. It would be great if I could get it done this month, and then I would be able to start the next one, which is the castle, in January maybe. That's probably how I'm going to do this. I know Brenda from Handwork Maniac, she just started hers, like the day that the new one showed up, she started it regardless of whether she had finished the previous one, which I think is also a cool idea, just to get it all going. But I might tissue box it so that I don't get overwhelmed, meaning I'll wait until this one's done and then start the next one whenever. Okay, so Stephanie from Cross Stitch the Globe also started that on Sunday, and I was copying her, and she was going to start it with Laura of Stitching by the Shore, who I think started it like a week earlier. So a bunch of people are starting this right now. If you're interested, you can check them out as well. And then yesterday was my youngest kiddo's first day of preschool, and as we were driving him to school, there were a little bit of flurries of snow in the air. Nothing accumulated, and if I hadn't driven him to school at that time, I might not have seen the flurries, but I did see them. So I got out my Snow Day stitch, which is White Winter Moth by Kathy Barrick. I started this project way back in 2022, I think, and just sort of stalled out on it. So this winter, I'm planning on working on this at least one strand every day that it snows, and I am starting with the moth. I want to get the moth done with all these white stitches, and then I will move to the smaller motifs that I think are more fun to stitch. So I did more than one strand yesterday. I was feeling it last night, so I'll see if I have a before picture, but I basically finished out the white in this part of this wing. So that whole wing, that whole wing's B5200 is complete. I'm using the called for DMCs on this 1/2 on this 40 count vintage country mocha. So I still want to stick with getting the rest of the white stitches in first, so I'm going to move over. I think there's a few white stitches left in the body of the moth, and then I'll move over and finish out this wing, and then probably fill in these dark spots. And then, yeah, I'll be able to move on to the Quaker motifs. So I have been enjoying stitching two-handed on this in a nerd hoop in my Ravelry stand. That is going better than whatever I was doing when I started it 2 years ago. And then I also wanted to show Annie from XO Needle in the Hay XO. I think during Thanksgiving week, she was sharing some deals that she found on her Instagram stories, and one of them was this Riolis kit. I think she bought it too. I saw it and I had to get it. This was on like a Amazon Black Friday deal situation. So I got this little deer, and then it shows on the back there's some other cute ones. I really like this fox. There's a hedgehog. The owls are adorable, but this guy might be my favorite of all. He's like a little warthog, or I don't know. I think that's what he is. Or just a pig. I don't know. Wild pig, a boar. I don't know what he is, a baby boar. Adorable. So I didn't find any of the other ones, but I will probably start this in the spring. It's a very adorable spring stitch. Okay, and then the last things I have to show you today are my Advent knitting projects. So the first one that I have to show you is an Advent sock. So my mom got me this sock kit from Woolens and Nosh. It is specifically for Advent, and it's pretty cool. So typically, if you've never knit a sock or you've never thought about knitting socks, I'm going to talk about socks for a second. If you don't care, then maybe I'll see you next time. So typically when you're going to knit a sock, you get 100-gram skein of sock yarn, and that is usually enough for most sizes of socks. Like I typically use about 1/2 of a skein to make a like calf length pair of socks for myself. So the way that Woolens and Nosh has done their Advent is they've created a self-striping colorway that has 24 different colors for the 24 days of December leading up to Christmas. And they give you two 50-gram skeins that match. So you get the kit and you have two basically half skeins of yarn that are starting at the same color. So you can start both socks at the same time and start working on them throughout the days of December, and then the stripes will match up. And in between each color, she has put a couple rows of black yarn. So as soon as you get to the black yarn one day, you can stop and put it away and then start knitting the next day, and the color will be a surprise. And the way that she packaged it is in this little project bag that has a snap in the center. So there's one end of the yarn is coming out from one side of the snap, and the other one, which I tucked inside of here, is coming out of this side so they don't get tangled. And then in addition to those two 50-gram balls of self-striping, she gave a 30-gram ball of black. So if you wanted to do the cuffs of your sock or the heels or the toes in solid black, you have plenty to do all three, usually with a 30-gram skein. A lot of times sock sets come with a contrast yarn that's only 20 grams, and that's not always enough to do heels, toes, and socks for everybody. So it's very nice that she gave a generous contrast color. So I'm going to show you, I do have both socks started, but I got a little bit ahead of myself while I was watching Julie, Kansas City Girl in Colorado World. She has a video out where she goes through this box of finishes that was like overflowing with things she's finished over the last I don't know how long. And as she's going through the box, she's then inserting clips, future clips of her fully finishing those things. So she'll show this like FO that's from her box of finishes, and then she'll insert a little clip of it framed or turned into an ornament or wall hanging or a flat fold or whatever. And there's like 80 some finishes, which is crazy. So I was watching that and got carried away, and I went too far on my other sock, so I'm not going to show you that one because it has tomorrow's color already. But these are the first 3 days. So it started with this purple, and then pink, and then I have this like burnt orange color. And so the skeins each started with a little bit of black, and the yarn dyer said to just like move past that and get to the first color and start knitting with the purple. But the way that I cast on is I started my cast on where the two colors met, so it's basically a two color cast on. So like the very top row is black, but the bottom part of the cast on stitch was purple. That also doesn't make sense if you're not a knitter, but so I have this little row of contrast to start my sock. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, I think I did 14 rows of 2x2 rib, and then I just started in with the stockinette portion of the sock. So the rest of it's just going to be vanilla stockinette working through the stripes. And I did a German twisted cast on, which is my favorite for cuff down socks. I don't know if you can hear that. It's the first Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m., so the tornado siren is going off as a test. There's no tornado, don't worry. Sometimes when Bear hears it, he howls along with it, but not today. So I filmed the entirety of my cast on and knitting through the first color stripe. It took me about 15 minutes, I think, to do that. So I don't know if that footage would be interesting to anyone. It's basically like I didn't talk during it or anything. It's basically just like a start a sock with me sort of a thing, or if you want to see how I knit or how I do my cast on, let me know if you're interested in that. Maybe I'll put it out as like an extra, just like start a sock with me video. So yeah, I just pull this out sometime during the day when I want a little 15-minute, well, 30-minute if I do both socks, knitting break and go through the next stripe. Okay, so that was one, and then the other one is a more traditional yarn advent where you get 24 mini skeins of yarn that are prepackaged. Did I grab the thing? And then some dyers will give you an optional full skein to open on Christmas Day, or you can open it at the beginning if you're working on a project that needs a contrast color throughout. So this is my first year getting this Pancake and Lulu advent calendar, and they do this festive yarn tasting menu. So every color of the yarn is also the name of a recipe, and this menu has QR codes, and you can go grab the recipe. And you can also use this to cheat and look ahead because the dyer used the images on the recipe link as the inspiration for the colorways. So I have not done that, but the first two colors I opened were Earl Grey Cake and Blueberry Cookie, which I can show you what I have left of them. So this was Earl Grey Cake, and this is Blueberry Cookie, so it looks like we're fading a little bit so far. I don't know if the whole thing is a fade or not. And I have started a wrap. It's basically like a wide scarf slash shawl, and it is knit on the bias, so it would be just a big rectangle, but it's like diagonal. So you're doing like an increase on one side of every right side row and a decrease on the other to make it like on the bias. So this is called Sleigh All Day, and it is by Allison of Lofty Loops. She has a yarn dyeing business, and she also has some designs. So I think she designed this to go with her advent that she dyed last year. But you can buy the pattern on Ravelry. I think it was like $7 maybe. So I cast on with that first color on Sunday, and you do a few rows of garter, and then there's this lace section, which is just basically diamonds, simple lace. And then yesterday's color, you start with another little garter section to separate them, and then this is one color brioche. I love brioche knitting, and if you've never knit brioche before, it can be intimidating, and most people usually start with two color brioche because it's easier to see what is happening with your stitches. But once you get the hang of it, one color is really where it's at because you don't have to purl. So when you do two color brioche, you have to purl half of the rows and knit half of the rows. But if you do one color, you're just knitting. It's like garter. You're always knitting on the right side and the wrong side. So it's superior. It's faster. It's super fun. I love brioche. It's so squishy. And I really like how it looks with the variegated yarns in one color. So the pattern recommends using like some mohair or sturry fluff for the garter sections in between. And I chose not to do that. I'm just using the yarn that I have. And so far I've had plenty, obviously, to do the sections, and I have quite a bit left over. So I could use this for another project. I do have a sea glass tee by Wool and Pine Designs, which I will just show you that real quick because it's right here. So I'll put a picture up of what this looks like, but this is my favorite thing to use scrap sock yarn or fingering weight yarn in right now. So here's my sea glass tee. So this, every single row is 1x1 color work, but you are changing at least one color every row. So there's a million kabillion ends. You can deal with that by doing magic knots or like weaving in the ends as you go. There's like a weave and Steven method from Stephen West. I am doing magic knots, and sometimes those show through on the outside of the sweater, and I just don't really care right now. I think it is fine with me. It fits the vibe. I'll like trim them up. So I just have a giant bag of fingering weight scraps, and so the leftovers from my advent will probably go into here. And I don't know how much farther I have to go until I can split for sleeves, but this is very relaxing to work on if you like color work, or if you want to work on a new technique. Like when I do two-stranded color work, I hold one color in my right hand and do like a flicking method, and then a knit continental like I usually do in my left. So like if you want to practice that, or if you want to figure out how to use one of those little rings that you put on your finger that keeps the two strands separate and knit, like if you want to learn how to do that, this is a great one just to practice, because you don't have to look at a chart and like follow a design. It's just 1x1 the whole way through. So there's my plug for the sea glass tee. There's like I think there's a tee version and there's a sweater version. Maybe there might be patterns for different weights of yarn. I don't remember. But anyway, so I have day 3 of my advent yarn to open up. So I figured I would open that up with you. Hopefully this is not obnoxiously loud. Okay, so this is called Butterfly Blue Oats. So a light sort of blue-gray, and putting it next to this one, yes, we are fading from gray to blue-gray into lighter blue. So I will wind this up. This right here, this is my yarn swift and my winder. I have those out because I'm winding these into little cakes every day. And see how long I can keep up with this. I did not time how long it takes me to do my sections for this shawl, but I find knitting easier than cross stitch, because with cross stitch, like, you have to look at the chart a lot. I mean, if you're doing fill-in, you don't, but with knitting I can usually just get the hang of what I'm doing and then not have to look at the pattern very much, and so it's more relaxing and I have a lot more experience with it. So like if I'm watching a Flosstube where I actually want to look at the video most of the time, like Julie's parade that I was talking about, it's easier to do it while knitting. Okay, so, oh, what did I say it was? Butterfly Blue Oats? It's blue overnight oats. Maybe I'll try that recipe. I haven't tried any of the recipes from the tasting menu yet. I haven't even clicked on the links or scanned the QR codes to see what they look like. But it's only December 3rd, so there's time. So I think that is everything I have for you today. I don't know, aside from my knitting projects, I'm not sure what I'm going to stitch on today. I do still have Prairie Wind that I want to get done by the end of the year. I have that Jeanette Douglas mini bouquet booklet that I would like to get done by the end of the year. I want to get some more progress on Santa's house. So I think I'm going to do my Advent knitting, and then I will see what I'm in the mood for, and I will maybe come back tomorrow and film another little clip and let you know what I decided to do.